The following is a conversation with Marius Krämer. Marius Krämer is the co-founder of heyvie, a business punk top 100 this year, and he takes mental health literally with his company, heyvie. We discussed the concept of a target audience with Marius, what a right one is, why it's important, how to pick them, how to identify them, and a lot more. This podcast is brought to you by Codesphere. You can find out more at codesphere.com. Enjoy our conversation. See you in the interview.
Yeah, I just talked about it today for like an hour because someone asked me, like, the grandpa of my girlfriend, he's 85 or something, and he was like, "What is Bitcoin?" I had to actually research before we started when I kind of joined the first startup. It was 2015, beginning of the year, and yeah, basically from there I was just going into different startups, doing just different stuff. And while on that journey, it kind of became very clear to me that this is where I'm gonna go. Apart from just like going into a enterprise company for 7 months and not deciding to go beyond my trial there. But then again went into startup, and yeah, after just like now 7 years or something, I founded heyvie together with a good friend of mine called Hardy, around like 12 months ago, somewhere like that. And what we do is we take something called neurocentric training, brain-based training, whatever, and put it into a product. That's the very rough cut. And to get there, we have to go through and that's probably going to be the topic for today, also go through very specific audiences, because what you can do with the method we use is basically you can like help people who had strokes and like neurological problems, but you can also make people run faster or throw further. So
whoa, what? Hold up there. What? You can make people run faster. So super, I'm thinking superpowers.
You get people so they pat the side of their leg and a gun comes out like RoboCop. That's what I want.
the first time I tried it, and I was talking to Hardy, and he was like doing the training with me for the first time, and I was experiencing it and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, it's basically like a cheat code, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's basically,
that's really cool.
If you do it every day, it's basically a cheat code.
So what is it? What's the meat of it then? You're like, it's a small amount of training per day for a person, or is it like a kind of...
Yeah, exactly. So you want to do a few minutes a day at least, but you can also do up to a few hours a day, whatever fits your schedule and how fast you want to get to results. Because basically, like, you need. Let me start somewhere else. Movement and pain is created in your brain, right?
Okay.
So that's the very, very fundamental idea behind it. All of movement is created in the brain, and your brain decides how far you can move your arm back, how far you can move your neck, how fast you can run. Like, you've heard all of these stories, like people suddenly having like these crazy amounts of power, just like lifting a car from their child or something like that.
Yeah, like a mother and child thing.
Like the idea is the power that the human body has is like quite incredible, and the brain controls how much we can use of it. And if we can tell the brain that it can use a bit more, then you will run faster, you will go further. Mm-hmm. And in the same way, we can basically treat pain, because pain is also created in the brain. And it's usually because there's some issues in different systems. Some systems are underactive, some systems are overactive. And this causes a lot of stress. And your brain is very, very simple. So if you are very stressed and you usually have migraines, for example, one way of your brain to tell you to lay down and rest is to give you some migraine. And one way to tell you not to run when your knee hurt before is to make your knee hurt again, because your brain knows it's a very easy pattern to make you stop.
Okay,
And
it's
if
like
we
a
can reduce,
it's like
yeah,
rewiring
exactly. And if we can reduce the load in your brain, it basically reduces the total amount of volume it needs to calculate and all the stress, and it has more capacity for all that external stuff. And that will not cause a overreaction anymore, like migraine or knee pain or whatever, because your brain basically feels secure. And that's all it's about. Your brain wants to feel very secure because it does not want to die. It's the basic principle. And if we can give more security, yeah.
And when you say like 10 minutes a day or 5 minutes or a certain amount of time a day, what is that like listening to content, actually exercising, doing something, or what's the...
Yeah, it's actually exercises.
Yeah.
So for example, what we do in the app and what you also do in personal training is you make some easy movement tests, some questions to figure out, okay, what part of the brain do we need to focus on today and what side of that part, like for example, your brainstem on the left side. And then you get some movement, because movement is not only the mirror to understanding how the brain is currently active, but also to changing the way it works, and giving activation to certain parts like your left brainstem. And that can be like rubbing or putting vibration on your ear. It can be just like going up and down, keeping your eyes steady, moving your eyes, just like focusing stuff and moving your eyes. And
I think we could do a whole episode on the research of finding out which like movement does which, to solve each thing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you dive deep into it.
Yeah, but let's stick with this, how you found the target audience for that, because that's obviously a very, very solid concept. But how do you identify exactly who needs it? As a, the easy answer is everyone needs to be able to run faster and jump higher, right? But I think you guys are specializing on migraines, isn't it? Is it fair?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how did you tell us how you got there? What was the journey from?
Wasn't an easy one. I can say so much. I mean, it's very nice, like to be able to say, like, okay, we can basically help anyone who wants help. But it's also very, very hard to get the product to someone telling them, okay, we can help you with anything you want. So that's not going to happen.
It's like that illusion of choice, isn't it? When you've got too much choice, then you're never going to actually choose anything.
Yeah, exactly. And we had to figure out something that we wanted to do. And one part of figuring that out was just like a very broad decision for ourselves, which was like performance versus pain and rehabilitation. And we decided to focus on the rehabilitation and pain stuff because it's just like more impact for the world at the moment. And then in there, you obviously have like how many parts of your body can hurt. It's like kind of a lot. And we basically just put out our alpha version very quickly. And that was the first part. And then we just got really random people into it, like completely random. Everyone we knew, we were telling them, oh, you want to test this alpha version? You can just do it for this training. You can work on that pain. You can work on performance, whatever you want. And they tried it. And then based on those people, we had the first identification, okay, what seems to be the issues that are mostly occurring just across these like 100, 200 people. And then also for which of these symptoms can we most easily build something? Because that's also part of the discussion. Because yes, if, I don't know, like we had someone who's just like very jittery when he drinks, like for 20 plus years, and it helped for him. But it's very hard to build a product that really can cover all of these people, right? And that's how we kind of went to migraine. So we went to like pain and then, okay, migraine, and there's also back pain, there's also hip pain, there's just like some very common pain issues you have. And then in there we tested again and checked, okay, where can we have the easiest and biggest impact, basically. And then combining that with also, like, obviously there are very interesting market indications for migraine, for example, right? Was part of the discussion, but mainly it was focused on just like a random sample of people and what did they actually want to do with the training and what were the biggest issues. And now looking back, which we didn't know back then, is that like 30 to 40 people in our age group at least have migraine, it's kind of obvious that there are going to be a lot of people in the product having migraines, right?
Yep.
So you start with like a big group of people that you give the app out to, and then you sort of like slowly filter down to like an achievable.
Actually, I want to jump in there. That was kind of my question. Like when you're starting to look for your target audience, do you decide what it is, and then you're like, okay, I think this app is going to help these people, so you build it for them, and then later on you conduct research with users, or is it the other way around? You start off with totally blind research on like with a concept, and then see who it resonates with. Which way around do you think is like the most effective way?
We chose the second one.
So you went in blind, like you were like, here's the concept, let's go with a bunch of people and then see what they come back with and then build for that.
Yeah, but it's obviously also very dependent on your product, right? If you have like, I don't know, if you do running shoes, it's obviously going to be way more specific from the get-go, right? Then it's more about figuring out, okay, what is actually like the person that buys our running shoes. And that's a very different discussion. But it's like, for us, it was so, like, we decided for pain. I mean, there's like,
okay.
There's like so much within pain already. Like running shoes is so much more specific than
Life
pain.
is pain.
Exactly. And it's like we kind of had to figure out a way to go to some specific place from not our indications, apart from going for pain, but like just like what do people want to use, and also what kind of person. And that's probably also it is a very important factor when you and what I think is very nice if you choose this second way of conducting your research is that not necessarily the person who just like most benefits from the product or who is most likely to use it is the best. It's also the person who tends to stick to the product. And for migraine, for example, we realized, okay, if we can really help those people, they are going to stick to the product. They are going to keep using it. And someone who's like this guy who's jittery when drinking, he's obviously in a much older target group, and it's going to be way harder to like, yes, he liked it and it helped him, but like, are you going to reach him on social media ads? Probably not. And like all of this is also just like when you run people through a program, or you're just like your first alpha version, and you see who comes out of it at the end. It's a very natural way of finding it. It's not like artificial and just like then at the end you realize, okay, those are good. It's a good target group, but just like no one keeps using the product.
So it is kind of like in terms of which stage of your product identifying target audience comes into it. It's definitely not the first thing you do out the gate, right? Because you need a product first, and then it's more of like just before marketing, I suppose. Or
I mean, there's in general in the startup world, I would say there's like two concepts to do it. One is what we did, and one is to just like throw landing pages, throw ads, and just see who converts best.
But in both cases, the product has to be there first, right? Some version of the product.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and then it's like second stage tweaking for this target afterwards.
Yeah.
So, okay, can I ask a bit of a dumb question at this stage?
Yeah.
So, you did the testing and you gave the app to a group of users, and then the people that the users that came out the bottom of that were the ones that you then targeted. So, what's the difference there between your audience and your users?
I would say the audience is also including the people that are probably going to join us later. Because if we focus on migraine now, that obviously, and it's anytime it's a very hard decision to make, because you never want to exclude someone, right? You always think like, oh, it's hard to get customers anyway. Like I cannot exclude someone, but you have to. And focusing on migraine obviously excludes a lot of people, and also people who find the concept interesting, and who are just like, for example, looking for neurocentric training apps. That's not a lot of people yet, but still there are some. And those for me are audience, because they are still following us and still looking at the progress and what we're doing and what new modules we're releasing. But they are not necessarily users yet, because we're just not hitting their their pain, literally.
Yeah. Okay, so there's like a kind of there's your like direct users, and then your potential users is your audience kind of thing.
Yeah.
And by targeting those people accurately, that's how you can then grow the product at the perfect rate.
I think your audience can also include like shared watering holes, people in the same ecosystem that aren't necessarily using your product. Like, let's say you sell tires, and there could be like an alloy. People who buy alloys, I don't know why I picked that weird. If you build wheels and you sell tires, right? They're still part of your audience. You need these people to pay attention, but they're not your users, right?
Okay.
Like, think of a better analogy for that later.
I know what you mean. So it's basically like adjacent, the things that are adjacent.
Yeah, and you need to be like, speaking to like, okay, what kind of things are these people doing? And to some extent, they're still like they're part of your audience, but they're not necessarily your user. But they're still both. You still target both of them to some extent, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, isn't it? Because that kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the product or the audience, is like because you might see the audience and be like, these people need a solution that I can provide for them.
Is the chicken the audience or the egg?
The chicken is the audience, and the egg is the app. It's an egg app for chickens.
Sure, right. Yeah.
It's to help chickens lay eggs. It's an egg that you put under the chickens. That's a terrible analogy. Let's not go down that path. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like some of the ideas that, when people actually found a startup, they're like, I can solve this problem for these people. These people are my target audience. They don't even have a product. They just know that there's a problem. So like the idea to start the startup is just basically, I can create a solution here. So your audience is basically people who are in need of a solution. So it's like we were talking about with Roman even last week, that you don't even need a product to start. Your product could just be a selection of Slack groups, an Excel spreadsheet, and a chat app. That could be it. So yeah, it's super interesting, isn't it? And it's kind of like, as the audience might grow and their needs get more defined, that's when the product can jump in and actually solve the problem more specifically.
I mean, it's something I think you can also see when you look at influencers, kind of, because they often have an audience. But they don't have a product, right? They just have like 5K followers, 10K followers, whatever. Obviously, they're in some domain or something, but they then might look into, okay, wow, I have an audience now. What can I advertise them? Like, what's my product now? How can I make money out of this? And that's a very different way of looking into it. It's just like, I think, so specific for the situation. Like, you cannot really like have this like, okay, this is your playbook, go for it.
But that's what's so cool, because it's very dynamic, isn't it? It's like you might even have you might think you've got the most crystalline idea of what you're going to do, and then suddenly you're like, well, actually, this isn't the solution that I want.
Yeah, I think it's a very very rough but very good realization that when you understand that even if you think you just really nailed it, you have your target audience now, you have your user now, you're probably wrong. It's probably still going to change.
So is that where the market research comes in important? Is that sort of that next step? Is it like you kind of have the hunch, you work towards what you think is right, and then you put the next leg in, which is the market research?
Yeah, that's at least how we did it. So we basically had that, and then we knew, okay, migraine might be one very interesting thing to focus on. And then also there's some other issues we could use, which we also looked at in research then. But we clearly had our favorite from just like the user's reaction. Mm-hmm. And then we're like, okay, does the market support this? Also, what's the situation on competition and all of that, to then further understand, okay, can we actually do this? Can we pull this off? And then how can we get into these people, obviously building some kind of persona from that, and then just trying to figure out how can I reach those people.
So in that context, the market research not only includes the audience, but it's also the competition and every other facet of the business factored
for
in.
Me, yes. Yeah. Because I always try to think about whatever I do or we do now. I always try to think about budget over anything else. I'm like, okay, like if you have migraine, for example, you kind of have a budget like that you use for, I don't know, you buy a black roll so you can roll out your neck and then maybe your migraine is better, right? You kind of, you spend some money a year around your issue. And then I think it's very important to understand that people are usually already spending money. It doesn't have to be an app. It can also be just like going to massage every month, whatever. But there is something they are using, they're spending money on. And what is it? Like, what is your competition? Like, and because that's then the channel also how you can get to those people, right? That's like, okay, these are the things they're using. They're probably then reading this magazine. They're probably doing this and that. And that's how you better understand and better get an image of the person that's actually using it.
And you might even find your competition's doing a bad job, right? If you do some social media stalking and they're just not doing it right, I feel this can be a super useful way for you to figure out what to do next or how to get ahead, you know?
Yeah, and also what not to do.
Yeah.
it can also be interesting.
Right. So that's kind of why research is so important, right? Just to make sure you don't just make the wrong step. But I mean, there's so many different avenues, I guess, you can go down with research, like surveys or interviewing in person or, you know, just looking around at competitors. But how do you know if you're getting the right audience? How much is enough research? Is it a continuous process? What are your metrics for this?
I think it's for sure a continuous process. Like, you can never stop. You just have to keep
all day, every day.
Just get an endless queue of people with migraines asking them questions
in a dark room.
Yeah, but it's like how it works. Like, it's not desk research, right? But just like what we do, we just like every week we're trying to onboard new people for the migraine stuff, but not just like as users, like give them the app, they download it, whatever. We onboard them, we ask them questions, we just try to get like 10 people every few weeks. They start at the same time, they get the same questionnaire at the same time, and then we see, okay, how do they react, how do they actually use it, and all of that. So it's never stopping, it just gets more specific. Okay. And then the second part of the question, like, when is it enough? I think it's not like the solution for anyone listening probably, but just lately I heard someone, I think the Early Bird founder in the podcast, say that he thinks one of the best qualities for founders is if you can make, I hope I quote this right now, just like he looks into people who can make decisions that other people might take longer to make or might not be able to make. And those can be database, but they can also be gut-based, and they can, like, it's just like you have so many variables, and if you can make the right or like the best decision you can make from that, that's like really a quality that you wanna have. And I think that's also what you have to rely on a bit if you're in that situation. So always like do your research, do whatever you can, but don't overthink it. Like if you like if it's 10 people or 20 who tell you the same thing, it's probably just like make the call and go and then check the next thing. I usually find like after asking 4 people or showing them a product, you kind of the difference in answers isn't changing so much anymore. Okay.
Right, yeah. So it's like small batch, and then when you get repetition, you iterate, and then another small batch, and keep it going this way. So I think what you were kind of saying there is that like it's essential, but it's a tool. It's not like, well, 15 people said this, so we just blindly do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you still have to make the decision yourself.
I guess on the flip side as well, I've heard this concept of having these like superstar users as well. So like a small group of very engaged users that maybe has used the product from a very early a point in its life, and they're the people that you can go to and say like, look, what do you want? How are you finding it? And nurturing those people as part of the wider user base is very, very important.
Yeah, we did that a lot, and we still do it a lot. But I think it's also very thin ice. You have to be quite careful. Because there might be various reasons for those people to be these kind of superstar users. So, for example, we have one, and she probably would count in that category, but she also knows us.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's like, it's a very different situation when you start with the people and they know you. And it can be very dangerous to rely on, like, you get, because those are the people you get very early on, right? They use the product from the beginning. She started from the alpha version, whatever. And if you just focus on those, it might end up badly.
My grandma's using Codesphere all the time. She loves it.
She's like,
she was from day one, wasn't she?
Yeah. She's just started this new blockchain enterprise.
She's customer converted. She's paying money. She's
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
This is our target audience.
She's actually doing small pull requests now as well. She's
good. Yeah, she's just loving this cloud development, this process, whole thing. She's loving it.
It's like a very, and that's what I mean. Like at some point, I think also have to trust your gut and be like, I think this is what I'm getting from all of this information, because no interview is going to be the same. You're not going to have, like, after 100 interviews, you're going to have like 5 which are exactly the same, and you're just like, we have it.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Do you find specifically with your products, do you find that you have to watch people using the app, and like the interviews that you conduct, are they much more informative when they're held in person and you're kind of like interacting with the user, or is it just basically like fill in this questionnaire? Is there like a use for sort of like dealing with those people face to face and then becoming more like partners, or is it just like blind 100 people A/B testing, like multiple choice?
I mean, there's value obviously in both options.
Yeah.
But I tend to like it more when I'm not there, when people use the app.
Okay.
Yeah, that's also why we tested, like the first testing we did, we used the very early alpha version of the product and no landing page testing or something like that. Because I feel it's very valuable if people just like actually use it and then give you feedback. It's very different feedback. Obviously, there's also a lot of value from like sitting there, but I tend to use that more for just like very specific things. Just like, what do you do on this screen? Watching that. Because just like the whole app experience, it can be done, but it's so tough to sit there and be like a stone and just like not move, no emotions.
Just tutting. Oh no.
That's true, yeah.
It's so little things, but you sit next to the person and they're just like, the thumb moves to a button and you're like, yes. And then I say, okay, I have to click this, and it's like very subtle, I think, to not influence people, and it's very very hard. So I tend to like the feedback from real users more, but it's also sometimes hard for your brain because it's probably going to be worse.
If you're the founder and it's your child, the company, then it's very difficult, I think, to separate your emotions from people misusing your app. But I think, especially when you're looking for your target audience, though, you want the correct data because you want to know, okay, this has to be right. So this is how I'm going to define my development down the road. So
the reason I ask actually is because I was reading a book recently about a mindfulness practice in the armed forces in the US, and a woman basically,
the odd book
because it's about like it's about how you like mindfulness training can improve your focus. And
I think I know what it's about. It's just odd that you just picked it out of the ether.
Just pulled it out
Wednesday night.
Because she was just looking along the bookshelf. This one,
armed forces, US specifically.
Thinking about joining the armed forces actually.
I wonder what their mindfulness is like when they're using weapons.
Should I be doing this? Anyway, she said that they tried to do this training for armed forces, and they got back like such a large selection of results that then she had to sort of step in and actually kind of watch them, like making sure that they were not doing it every day, but just kind of like drilling down into the data. And it made me think of what you guys were doing, because obviously there's so much within obviously the app journey, user journey, but then actually the product itself is like, are people doing it for long enough? Are they engaged all the way through the practice? Are they doing it at the right times of the day and stuff? And she said that was the key to finding out whether this mindfulness training was working or not, is finding the people that were actually doing it in the right way, and then finding corrective ways to improve the people that weren't doing it in the right way. So that's kind of why I asked whether the in-person thing was important or not.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. So, for example, in our case, it's like we know that it works, like not the product, but we know the method works. It's like the results are incredible, and usually there's no one going away from a session with Hardy and being like, nothing changed.
Okay.
Like, I've never experienced that.
Yeah.
And it's like, we know that this works, but we have to know if it works in a product, because no one did it before. And that's why we try to keep this in-person thing so much out of the equation, because it needs to work without us, and that's the whole point behind it.
Yeah.
But it's a very case-by-case decision, I think, you have to make.
That's super interesting, because it means that that's it's like the proof of the actual digital version of it is so important, isn't it? On paper, you know that it works, but then the execution is like another thing completely, which must be very similar for a lot of products as well. Very cool.
All right, let me do some like quick fire questions for you, for our like people out there who are looking for how to do it. Okay, what is a target audience? Define it for me.
People who at some point would like to use your product.
Why is it important that I identify these people?
So okay, that's a bad example. I wanted to say something with running shoes, because I used that before, but then I couldn't make something up from
chickens and eggs have been taken too.
Yeah, something. Yeah, making running shoes for chickens. It's like, maybe that's it.
That's perfect. So you don't make shoes for chickens.
Yeah, that's the answer.
All right. So should I start with my current customers when I'm trying to figure out who my future target audience is? And what's the difference between the two? That's kind of a two-level question there.
Yeah, it depends a bit on your product. It also depends on if your user is also your customer. That's very, very specific.
Can you go into that a little bit? What do you mean if my user is also my customer? So I have someone using my app who,
Yeah, I mean, let's take Codesphere. So the one paying for it is not the user, probably.
Right. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so like a SaaS, anything that's like SaaS, or let's say someone's using a running shoe to feed their chickens. The chicken's the user, but there's the farmer, that's the customer.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably some manager or someone who's signing off the deal to use Codesphere, but it's the developer who's going to use it. So, very, very big difference.
Okay, that's sorry, let's finish the.
No, you go on. What you got?
That's really interesting. That's
sure it's very important, because you jumped right in the middle of the hot question.
No, I just never thought of it, like, because as I say, this is like this is an area that I have very little.
No, sometimes chickens eat out of running shoes. It has happened. Just as like a container.
Sometimes chickens eat the farmers themselves. No, but the fact that your customer isn't your user base, like that's another, like your audience on one hand is the user, but then you might actually be trying to convince another section of audiences, which is the person who's paying for the app. Like take Microsoft Teams, for example. That's a product that I bet no single user would choose to use on their own, because it's probably pretty poor, and there's loads of other solutions out there that work better for like one person to one person.
It's very anti Microsoft. No one would choose. There's loads of better solutions.
Exactly. If you're gonna choose a chat app, I would not want to chat with anybody in Microsoft Teams.
Do you know when I only ever hear about Microsoft Teams is when someone complains like, we're in the middle of changing over to Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, exactly.
Always. My company is changing to Microsoft Teams next week.
We've gone Teams. But that must up the decision ladder. The person who's thinking, I'm going to bloody pay for Microsoft Teams and this is going to be great. Then that person as the target audience is going to love it. But then further down the chain, the user is not going to enjoy that. So there's a complete dichotomy there between the person who's going to actually pay for it and the person who's going to use it.
Yeah. For example, if we decide to go and we might do that more to go B2B2C. So basically a company pays for, 10 licenses, and then the people there can use them. I'm probably not going to get a signed contract by letting the people know, hey, your people are going to have less migraine. Obviously, there are some people out there who would sign that and be like, I just want my people to be happy. But especially in larger corporations, there's probably something else involved if there's also money flowing, right?
Right.
So I need to show a person like that. Migraine is actually one of the big causes for something called presentism, which is basically losing productivity due to illness, but still working. Like you're not getting in sick days, but you're still working, but you're obviously not that productive. And if I can show that to someone and tell them, oh, you're going to lose 400 hours for people having migraine a year, and you can pay like this amount of money, and then you save a lot. That's very different. But I could never go to someone, a user or someone in B2C, and be like, I mean, you can work so much more. Like, buy the product. It's like, do you know how many hours you are unproductive at work? Yeah, maybe there's some people who are just like self-employed. Obviously, there's always someone who fits this. But just in general, people are going to be like, are you crazy?
If you use my product, your boss is going to be able to wring even more work out of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like...
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a big difference in communication.
Yeah.
All right. So going niche or niche. How do you go, Tim? Niche or niche? How do you say it?
Niche. Niche is American.
Yeah, niche. Going niche. So obviously the point of finding your target audience is to, especially in your case, was finding this huge, broad aspect of what your product solves. In your case was pain, and you've honed in on migraines, which, by the way, great thing to solve on behalf of anyone who's having a migraine out there. Thank God there's a solution. How niche should you look at going if you have a product, or is that even the goal of target audience? Is it just monetarily? This many people will buy it, throw enough at the wall and see what sticks, or should the goal be focus?
I think the goal should be focus. And I also think that we are never focused enough and never small enough. Like almost no one. Because you're always scared of, like what I said before, like excluding people. You're always scared of that. Oh, there might be someone who has like 1 hour a day or a week migraine, and I might also get them. And you have to be very specific.
Okay. So think benefits, not features. That's kind of the question / statement. Are you looking to build, things everyone wants, or is it just you find? What's the best decision at this stage of looking for your target audience? Do I build features that are going to bring people in, or do I just build the most beneficial thing for my users?
Yeah. I experienced that a lot when I was doing fintech. And it's like you have these features, you can invest money, you can do it on a recurring basis. It's like, okay, wow, cool. If you're just like, you can you don't have to worry about it. It's automating, and it's like you don't have to look into it anymore, and it just like invest the money automatically for you. You don't care about it. It's also a very different way of communicating, and I think it's way better because no one cares about features in the end. It's just like, it's nice, but it's a very personal opinion. I think people are very emotional, especially in buying decisions, and that's about benefits.
Can we go into that a little bit? No, again, it's another interesting discussion point, that whole benefits and features kind of conversation, because talking about fintech specifically, I can compare directly like the experience that I have with my UK bank account, which is Monzo, and the N26 account that I have in Europe, and they both like boast the same features. But the Monzo account is way more stable, and it's like they haven't monetized it as they've monetized it in a slightly different way, so it's not as like addy, and they're not pushing notifications on you the whole time. So I'd say that the sort of like the core offering of those two platforms, the Monzo platform is way better, but they have the same feature set. But I'd say the benefits of using the Monzo platform, because it's less like, I don't know, it just doesn't get in the way as much. I would always recommend the one over the other. So I guess, again, looking from like a kind of audience point of view, the interesting thing is like actually sort of like the ecosystem that the person might be in and what they might expect from the product as well. Like it doesn't feel different here because there's no other solution. But when you actually compare it like on a wider user base, then there's a clear winner, you know.
But that's what your research is for, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting how it can, even if you don't think it's siloed, it can be. You know, there's like the cross comparison across, you know, an entire world of markets is really specific and interesting.
Yeah, and it's also very emotional, right? So someone else might feel exactly the opposite from you.
Yeah.
I do. It's funny. I was going to say I have absolutely no issue with N26 at all. It does everything I needed to do on my phone immediately. I don't know where you're finding friction because I'm not saying it's the best one ever, but I also have like Revolut and stuff, and they for me the experience is I need to do this thing, I can do it. I'm not sure exactly what I'm missing. Maybe with Monzo, maybe it's
yeah. I just think it's like but it's just it's like I think it's their structure because there's a lot of like they're subtly always pushing you to pay more. Like there's always like a nudge to be paying for stuff. And I think from a bank, again, this is quite emotional, I guess, because I'm just kind of like been looking at it a little bit recently. And from a bank, you just don't want them to be always pushing you to spend more money with them. You want them to feel like trusted in holding your money and just like that's all they do. It's like a silent partner, you know. So yeah, it's just I guess the difference between benefits and features. And even though like there might be two products that sort of boast the same set of features, the benefits or the actual core functionality of how they're using how they're using their users is also like quite important, you know, what their goals are.
Yeah, and it's like for you in this case, I mean, if they advertise on features basically and tell you, okay, it costs this amount of money per month, it might actually be the same, right? It can be just the same amount of money it costs, and like if it just on the website like this, okay, but like the nudging for you makes such a big difference that you're just like, no, I'm paying this already. I don't want to pay more, and don't bother me around it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So it's just like so specific, so emotional, and that's also the key. Like finding kind of a subgroup of people who are similarly. It's very hard to say for a German. Similarly emotional.
That's a difficult thing to say anyway. Similarly emotional.
Yeah, but like if you can do that, I think that's your gold mine. Like if people just are triggered by the same wording, same stuff, yeah, then you hit gold.
The last thing I wanted to touch on was really about how so like your mission statement as a company, right? Your mission statement defines like what you want to achieve, but then how much does your target audience define your brand, or how much is your target audience defined by your mission statement, or do you change one for the other? Because what I'm trying to say is like you start off and you make a statement, you have an idea for a company, you make a product, and then somewhere along that journey, one of the first things you do after that is who are we selling this to? And we've discussed today, we do that through research, we do that through looking at competitors, we do that through testing the product. But then, you know, what if you do all this and it's a vastly different concepts to what you came up with in the first place? Does your mission statement win out in that case, or is it like, look, the target audience is not what we wanted it to be? It's cows, not chickens. So our mission statement of bringing shoes to chickens is no longer relevant in any way. But there has to be a balance here, right? There has to be a balance between what you've told your shareholders and your investors and how you've structured your company, and then this potentially devastating news you find out when nobody that wants the product that you thought wanted it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, what comes to my mind is even if that's the case and you communicated it to anyone and all the shareholders and every investor and you realize it's not working, then still rather change it, even if it needs just like everyone's going to be pissed with you. But like I would tell them, yeah, but you're going to be more pissed if I just continue doing what does not work, obviously. So yeah, I'm always on the side of changing, even if it's a big change. But if you really know it's necessary, you just have to make the change. And I think also like mission statement, vision, and all of that, I don't think you have to be so harsh on it, and you can change it more often than you think in the beginning, because it's so much part of figuring it out. And actually, I did that a few times, and I now think that I might be where I want to be. But it was just like changing. It was changing so much, which is also because we thought about this migraine stuff so much, right? And then you are just like in that cosmos, and you're very focused on that and going there and going down that rabbit hole. And then at some point you talk to people and everyone, and then for us it was just like one investor in the call asked us, so you're doing a migraine app? And then I was like, wait a minute. This is where we ended up now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing migraine, very focused at the moment, but we're not the migraine app.
Yeah.
And that's when you know, okay, it's different. Like you go so
fluid.
deep and I think it's very important because we now went back a step and we're like thinking, okay, do we actually want to do this, or do we want to build an app for neurocentric training which is focused on migraine at the moment? And that defines like if you also think about users and audience again, like your audience is way larger than your current user group when you're focused. This is obviously going to define what my audience is going to be and where I want my audience to be in the future. And that's, for us at least, it's very, very different. But the new vision, mission stuff, whatever, helps a lot in figuring that out.
It could also be more subtle than that. It could be to the user, the external user, that the platform and the mission statement doesn't change at all. But then behind the scenes, there's a bigger pivot happening. So like Google, for example, that was always, they initially said that they were a search engine company, and it's always stayed the same for the external user. It's like their search is first, and then they've got all these superfluous apps that kind of build up Alphabet. But now they've gone from advertising themselves as a search engine to being an information service. They always say that that's their kind of core focus now, is like information gathering. So behind the scenes, their mission statement has changed, and I think to kind of like entice more interest to keep the company going, that they've pivoted behind the scenes, but then externally they've stayed the same. So I guess maybe there's like an internal way of looking at it as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're now looking to so we made it way more rough now, and we're just like, okay, we want to be able until 2030 to basically solve all non-structural issues you can have. And it's like obviously very rough, and that can be running. You just like can't run faster even if you train all the time, but that can also be like migraine, but it can also be anxiety. So it's very, very rough, but that defines where we want to go. And also if I talk to people, I'm like, yeah, that's not what we're going to do now, like back pain, but soon. So they are, if they like us, in our audience, but not in our current user group. And it's like evolving.
Yeah, don't be scared to be fluid, I think. Cool. So there you have it. We've had a pretty good look today at like what a target audience is, why they're important, how to find them, how to speak to them, how to do research, and how to, I think more importantly, my big takeaway is how to adjust based on what you find, really, or don't be scared to adjust based on things that you find. I think is a really key takeaway for anyone out there at that phase.
My biggest takeaway is that I now know what a target audience is.
Mine was an Indian in 2004. Massive takeaway.
I think the biggest takeaway for anyone should be that you Game of Thrones, right? You know nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
And that will never change. Like,
yeah, you know, you have to make assumptions, especially with target audiences. You have to make assumptions, and then it's just how smart you're willing to be with those assumptions, right?
Yeah.
How much research you do, and then.
But the reality is exactly. The reality is like it doesn't matter how much you know. You know nothing.
You might be right. That's like another thing. You might be right. You might make an assumption and you'll bang on. But until you identify that audience by speaking to people, you don't know you're just pretty sure. So I think that this is a step that people somehow still make. They misstep. So I mean,
talk to people. It helps.